Hi, I'm Kitegirl, Annabelle Drumm, and I'm so pleased you're here. With extreme weather happening all around the world at the moment, the question of climate change seems to have come to mind for many people again. If the world has global warming, then why is it that the Northern Hemisphere is having the roughest winter ever? With pollution looking so out of hand, would any of my efforts make a difference? Is there any way out of this mess? Is it going to get worse, or is it going to actually just blow over at some stage? Now, if you read my blog, you'll find that I have a number of causes in my own theory, but I wanted to broaden my understanding, and so, in order to do that, I went to get an expert opinion, and I asked Arek Sinanian to talk to us. Now, Arek is a scientist and consultant who's been working on environmental management for more than 30 years. He's very privileged to be on the roster of experts for the United Nations and working on the Kyoto Protocol and helping more than 300 countries look for new ways to reduce the Earth's greenhouse gases. Here's what he said. Hello, Arek. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Hi, Annabelle. Good to be here.
That's cool. You did a lot of work with United Nations. I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about what you were doing there.
I look at methodologies for accounting for greenhouse gases because the Kyoto Protocol basically is about accounting for benefits of reducing greenhouse gases. So when it comes to people talking about belief in climate change, it really fascinates me because
it does me too.
Yeah, because now we get into the realm of human behavior and human belief systems. So the first thing I ask people when they say that, they say, "Oh, Arek, I don't believe in climate change."
No.
So I say, well, where does this belief actually come from? And often people don't know this. They can't answer that question.
Or it's just from people that they've talked to in their local area or stuff that they've seen on the telly. The problem is that the stronger voices are usually the ones that are against it. You know, whereas scientists are not naturally loud people. So, you know, if the scientists are saying one thing and then you'll get loud people going, no, it's not happening. You must have had access to a huge amount of different scientific studies through this work.
Oh, look, as I said, this is nothing new. Tens of thousands of scientists over the last 30, 40 years have put so much effort into this. The science is absolute, not as absolute as any science can be. When you say I've had access, I've read so many papers. Even when people say to me, I don't believe in it, I say to them, well, do you think it's a good idea that we're putting this pollution into the air? Does that make sense? Intuitively, they think, no, that's not a good idea. Okay. Do you think it might have some impact on the environment and our health, for instance? Let's forget climate change. They say, no, it can't be doing any good. But I still don't believe it's having an impact on the climate. And they say to me, and by the way, how come we were talking about global warming a few years ago, now we're talking about climate change? And I say, well, you know what? It's both. It is both. What it is when the globe warms up, that is global warming, that warming effect has an effect on the climate. The reason these gases are called greenhouse gases is because they let the certain radiation through from the sun onto the earth, but they don't let as much heat out. And what we're doing is we're warming up the globe. And when we say warming up, you can also look at it another way. A scientific way is to actually, we're adding energy into the globe, into the atmosphere.
And what does that mean if we have extra energy?
When you think of climate is basically wind and rain and ocean currents and all that. All of these activities, wind is actually energy, as you know. Yeah. It takes energy to blow this mass of air from here to there. So this energy then creates additional activity, more wind, as it warms up, more evaporation, more rain. Fundamentally, the science tells us that all this energy has to go somewhere, has to do something. It can't just be trapped. So if
you have all this extra energy rather than a warming, is that is it the energy that's going into, because at the moment Northern Hemisphere has had sort of like the worst winter ever. It's been called a mini ice age. So is it because the energy's in there rather than warming? Because you'd expect if it was warmer it would be less of a winter.
Well, that's another problem that people have intuitively. They think global warming means the whole of the globe is going to get warmer all the time.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the case.
Okay.
It's, the weather, the climate, is a very, very complex thing. So, as I said, when you create more energy in some areas, that is, more wind, you create the balance changes. Right. So, in a way, the climate change is about how the balance is changing. And some areas are actually going to get cooler. Some areas are going to get wetter. Some areas are going to get drier. Some areas are going to get drier for a while and then wetter for a while. So it's going to all change. That's why it's called climate change.
Right. So with these kind of changes, what it looks like at the moment is that a lot of these seasons are going to get more extreme, which
Yes.
means we end up getting more deaths, more accidents, and it becomes harder to live in those areas. Yeah. Are these the sorts of things that we can actually make a difference with I know that United Nations-wise, high-level stuff, they're going to be looking at what they can do with curbing factories and, big-term pollution and ozone layer type stuff. What about us, little people? What can we do that can make a difference to that?
We can lower our impact. One of the ironies of this belief system and the people rejecting it is I think there's a fear in people that, oh my God, I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to ride a donkey to work. I'm going to have to switch all my, I'm going to give up this comfortable life. Mm-hmm. Well, the irony is we have the technology, and if we each made a small amount of change, which will probably not even require any sacrifice at all. For instance, when you're not in a room and you turn the light off, is that a sacrifice? No. I say no. When, for instance, we all end up driving smaller cars or electric cars, is that a sacrifice? I say no. We can all do so much. There is no doubt there's been many studies to suggest that the average person in, say, Australia can reduce their energy use by 10% without any change in lifestyle. 10%. So making tiny little sacrifices, walking to the shops instead of driving to the shops, you know what I mean? Making sure we buy local seasonal goods, for instance, reducing our packaging, reducing our electricity use, reducing our fuel, and of course reducing our high carbon use. That is, as a society in Australia, if we had more solar power, if we had more wind power, if we had more geothermal, etc., there's no sacrifice whatsoever. Absolutely none. And I agree with the Australian government's current attitude to say, listen, sure, there's got to be global action, but we have to be responsible for our own sustainability, our own emissions, our own impact on the environment.
Yeah.
It's like
if each country did that, in fact, if each individual did that, and this is a lot of where, you look at the shift of consciousness, which is what I love to follow at the moment, and seeing how much change it's making in the world, that as eventually more and more people wake up, that they start picking up on their own personal responsibility again and going, oh, okay, actually, there's something I can do about this myself, what my community can do, what my city, what my country can do about these things.
Well, it all boils down to, okay, I'm Arek Sinanian. How do I want to leave this planet? Mm-hmm. How do I want to leave this life? For me, I'd like to think that I want to leave it in a slightly better place than when I started. Mm-hmm. And that's what gives my life purpose. It's what gives my life some meaning. Now, you can then broaden that to the national level. What does Australia or New Zealand or Europe or England, what does Australia want to do as a nation? Do we want to be a leader, a responsible nation? Because there are other issues. I mean, it's like child pornography. I mean, that's a global problem as well. But are we going to say, if nobody else is doing anything about it, we're not going to do it? It becomes a moral ethical and almost a spiritual issue. That is, what does Australia as a nation want to do about the sustainability of the planet and how we want to leave this planet to future generations? Who are we and what do we want? It becomes almost a philosophical question. So to me, the science, let's leave that aside. That is absolute. Let's not even worry about the science because it's there. So that when I start talking to people, and I'm coming back to the beginning of this conversation, I say to them, this belief that you don't believe in climate change, is there another problem here? And my contention...
It's personal responsibility is the issue, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So to me, the science has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So this belief system that people are talking about, it's what it is. It's absolute denial. And in a way, it's sad because the people who deny this are actually denying themselves a much more meaningful and much more responsible and sustainable life.
Perfect. Yeah, that's so true. Gosh, you're so wise today. That's brilliant. Thank you very much, Arek. It's been really good talking to you. I think it's inspired me anyway to certainly continue on with what I'm doing and trying to make this world a better place. And I hope that you guys at home as well will see that it's something you can think about yourself. And next time you hear somebody who says they don't believe in climate change, to just understand there's a little more to it than that. Encourage them to at least make the world a better place as well. Thank you so much, Arek.
You're doing a fantastic job, Annabelle. Thank you.
Thanks.